All right, I'd like to call to order the 128th meeting of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Our quorum of commissioners is present. 4 of us are present here, and the 5th member, the chair, is absent because of geographical distance. He went on vacation and came down with a dreaded virus and has sort of a public health measure agreed to stay away and not share that with us. So we regret that he's not here and wish him a speedy recovery. But I am going to make certain that we can hear him, and of course, because he's away today, all of our votes will be by roll call. So, Mr. Chairman, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
And we can hear you fine. So we'll proceed to check in periodically as we proceed to make sure that that remains the case. As our first order of business, as is customary, let's look at the minutes for June 20, 2014. The minutes are in the book. I would move their approval with reservation of the ability to make mechanical and typographical corrections and correction of typos, but apart from that, would move their acceptance. I should say that these minutes take a little bit different form from our traditional minutes because the meeting was, these are minutes of the meeting of the transportation presentations and not minutes that followed an agenda. I'll have something else to say about the June 26 minutes when we get there as well, but these are in a little bit different form. In any event, I'd move their acceptance.
Second.
Is there any discussion from anybody about the contents of those minutes? All right, then.
Voting on these, I did not attend that meeting.
I'm sorry?
I just said I won't be voting on these since I didn't attend that meeting.
Right, that's right. Okay, then I would call for a vote. Still, we're going to do it by roll call, just to make certain that we turn square corners here. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Zuniga?
Aye.
Commissioner Cameron?
Aye.
Commissioner McHugh, aye, and the ayes have it unanimously. Now we turn to the minutes of June 26, 2014, and this was a regular meeting of the commission. I'd make the same motion, that is to approve the minutes with reservation of the rights to correct mechanical and typographical errors. These minutes have as is customary in the past, a time when each of the topics was discussed so that people can look at the tape and find the video. The transcript, of course, will be posted as soon as we have it. We may have it. But there is no longer a link between the time and the tape, and we are working to figure out how to restore that. Artem Shtatnov, who did that, has left the commission for the West Coast, and the process that he was using is time-consuming. He had it down to a routine, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. So we'll work on that and get back to it as soon as we can. But these minutes do not take that form, and I say that primarily for those who may be watching remotely. So, is there a second to the motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I hear no discussion, so we will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Zuniga?
Aye.
Commissioner Cameron?
Aye.
Commissioner McHugh? Aye. Chairman Crosby?
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. Let's turn then to the item 3 on the agenda, the Racing Division, Director Durenberger.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner McHugh, Commissioners. I will have just a brief administrative update for you today. We're going to have an extended one, I anticipate, on the meeting on the 24th. I just wanted to share with you that the Racing Division had been invited to address the Jockey Club's 5th Safety and Welfare Summit on Tuesday. That was attended by a number of significant stakeholders in person. It was webcast. They had 1,800 viewers from 12 different countries, and we were talking about the many regulatory and cultural reform initiatives that this commission has spearheaded. Very, very well received, and I wanted to let you know that you're being held in very high regard at the national level. So just wanted to let you know
Great,
about that.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. You were the one who made those presentations, is that right?
I did,
Yeah.
and actually that there is a link. They are available now online, and so we can send that around and perhaps include it at some point so that interested parties can look at it.
Great.
The Director of Communications, the Communications Department suggested maybe we include a blog about that on the website.
Right, terrific, terrific.
So that would bring us to the next item, which is a request for reimbursement from one of our trust funds. So our parimutuel statute has a number of trust funds that have been established. This one affects the Harness Horse Promotional Trust Fund. That trust fund is to be used by the licensees. This is a reflection of the age of the statute, to reduce the costs of admission, programs, parking, and concessions, and to offer other entertainment and giveaways. Admission, parking, those things are now free. And the trustees may expend to a licensee all amounts accumulated attributable to racing operations conducted at each applicable track. So this request that is before you is a request for consideration and reimbursement of funds that were used to provide the satellite uplink services. So about 90% of handle is generated by simulcast exports. That's the sending of the track's live signal to remote facilities. Certainly without the satellite uplink, that would cause a significant reduction in handle. So it seems to us that this falls squarely within the contemplation of the statute as written. I'll also note that this is a request, a fairly standard request, possibly going back to the opening of Plain Ridge Racecourse, but certainly for the last few years as far back as we had looked. So this has been a request that has been approved in the past by the prior Racing Commission as well as by this commission for the year 2012. We do have, if anyone is curious, we do have an email from Chris Rogers, Vice President and Senior Corporate Counsel of Penn National, that the money that are in these trust funds, those monies, were not within the group of assets that they acquired from our way. So they did not intend to seek reimbursement out of them for this operations.
Okay, could you explain that?
Sure. So the question was the monies that were in the fund at the time of the acquisition.
Chairman Crosby, are you still there? All right, let's stop until we reestablish that link. The record should reflect that we heard a little beep, and
Hello?
the absent member disappeared. It was just one of those cyber things.
Did he call in or did we call him?
Janice? Oh,
We're trying.
we're trying, all right.
He called that.
We're on the case.
Can we take like a 5-minute break? We're gonna try and do something because we're just concerned if we move the speaker phone closer to one of the speakers that we'll be there. Steve?
Oh,
Steve?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just trying, I wasn't hearing very well, and I just turned it off again to try to dial in.
all right, Janice, do you still want to take a break and rearrange things?
Yeah, we could do that for just like 5 minutes.
Okay, all right.
Steve, I'm gonna call you as well.
All right, we're going to take a break, Steve, and rearrange the microphones.
Okay, Bruce, can you just say something? I think I hear you pretty well.
I'm sitting right next to you if you were here.
Yeah, I guess I can see you on the thing, okay. All right, sorry to screw things up, but let's give it a quick one try. If it doesn't work, we'll bag it.
No, we're going to make it work. Yep.
All
I'll
right,
make it
All
work.
right.
We'll call you back.
okay, shall I sign off?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so everybody can just shelter in place for 5 minutes. Okay, let's go back to where we were, which was, I had asked Director Dernberger to explain the Penn communication saying we don't own any of what's in the trust fund. I'm not sure I understand that, so.
So the assets that were acquired by Penn from our way, we had the question whether or not, excuse me, the monies that were in these funds on the date of the acquisition were contemplated as part of that agreement, part of that acquisition. So we asked that question. And the response from Penn was that that was not. So Penn does not contemplate making any claims against the monies that were in those funds on the date of acquisition.
All right, so there, even after this payment, if this payment is approved, there will still be money in that fund.
Correct. Yep, monies are deposited continuously.
And that money can be used only for the purposes stated in the statute.
Correct.
And our way is the owner of, well, strike that. Penn is not going to make a claim against it, so maybe we don't have to decide this today, but what happens to those monies then?
This claim is against monies that were in there in
No,
existence.
that I understand.
2013.
That I understand, and
Yep.
this is a reimbursement for monies that our way expended. But that will leave a balance in the fund, so what happens to the balance?
I'm assuming that next year, this request will come from Penn for 2014, and those monies will be used toward Penn's request, correct?
Correct. Monies that were deposited attributable to operations subsequent to the date of acquisition, Penn is able to make claims against those.
All right, but there's money, well, does this request for payment exhaust all of the pre-acquisition money in the fund?
So it's going to be very close, Commissioner. We're winding up a project with an independent auditor that has been reviewing the monies that are going into that fund and their distributions.
Okay,
So we're very close. We're actually right at the letter of representation point with that audit. And then at that point, CFAO, Lennon and I will get together and we will be able to see exactly how much money is left. It's going to be very close.
okay,
And then we'll come to you with our plan and recommendations for any adjustments that need to be made.
okay.
Jennifer, the claim that's being made about a year after the fact, that's normally when it happens? There's nothing odd about the timing of this claim?
There's nothing odd about it. It is a little bit delayed this year, only because of this independent review. And so we wanted to make sure that we had enough money in those funds in order to reimburse.
Okay.
Is there the opportunity, now that we have, in all likelihood, a new applicant for the money beginning next year, that we can kind of step back for a moment and not look at the way things used to be done, but kind of start fresh with a new approach, a new process? I mean, just reading through some of the information you gave us, talking about requiring, a detailed business plan as to the purposes of the money. Obviously, because this is, paying for uplink and allowing the pari-mutuel betting against 90% of the handle, we understand that that's critical to the business, but because we now have there will be a new applicant for the money, can we kind of just go back and refresh the process and kind of put the process either back on a new standing or a new footing going forward?
Your question is well taken, and I have a couple of points on that, and not to get too far down in the weeds, but you'll recall in the initial report that we submitted to the legislature, we took a look at these funds, in particular the Capital Improvement Fund, and the process by which the applicants pay in the money and then they submit their request. You review them and then they get the money back, essentially. And we kind of thought there were some inefficiencies there that could be addressed in some replacement legislation, so we've still got that in mind going forward with replacement legislation. As part of our strategic vision that the Racing Division's working on this summer, we are going to establish a set of metrics. Some of those metrics are going to involve the promotion and marketing of the signal, so we're going to be asking the operators to show us, to demonstrate to us with a little bit more certainty, with some benchmarks as to what they're doing in order to grow the wager, as we call it. And we can certainly revisit that in other, at the policy level as well.
Okay. I mean, obviously, we can kind of continue to follow up on this, and I'd be interested in learning more about the history of the fund. But
Certainly.
obviously, we have one licensee paying money into the fund that they in turn apply for to get it back. I question the rationale of doing that, but I haven't been as privy to the history of the fund and the purposes for it. But
The genesis of that is a statutory requirement.
Yes.
And the efficiencies that you articulated are already in the recommendations that we had for the legislature towards the replacement of 128A and C eventually. But that is now at least on hold for a couple of years, because the latest we did was to extend, to recommend the extension. And if I'm not mistaken, they did. 128A and C, is that correct, Director? Or they have?
I apologize that in the last 48 hours, I haven't had an update. My understanding is that it was included in the budget that was on the governor's desk.
Right, okay.
okay.
So,
All right?
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Questions?
No.
All right, then you would like a vote to authorize this reimbursement, is that right, Director Dernberger?
That was my recommendation, yes.
All right, we need a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve the attached Our Way Realty request for reimbursement for satellite uplink costs to export the Plain Ridge Racecourse Live Racing in calendar year 2013.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, I'll call for a vote then, and that's in the amount stated in the request itself, which is 117.
It's here.
$600. Commissioner Stebbins,
Aye.
Commissioner Zuniga,
aye.
Commissioner Cameron,
Aye.
Commissioner McHugh, aye. Chairman Crosby.
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. All right, thank you very much.
That concludes the racing division
All
today.
right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, let's turn to the fourth item on the agenda, which is Administration Executive Director Day. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner McHugh. And where did Steve go? Where did the chairman go? I missed him now. He's back
over
here.
there.
Here.
And Chairman Crosby on long distance. So
Yes, got you. Welcome.
what I'd like to do is just provide a brief update on a few general administration issues. Our recruiting efforts have been more successful than reflected in my last update. We're recruiting for 6 positions. One applicant has accepted one of our financial investigator positions and will report in August. We've identified 22 qualified applicants for the 2 other positions and have narrowed the field to 8 strong candidates. We're also recruiting for a paralegal and have narrowed that group to about 13, and an assistant to the racing director. The position was posted on the 20th of June. We have a strong pool of resumes to review. The last position we're looking for is the gaming lab manager. A very difficult position to recruit, but I understand we have a line on a possible temporary person to come in to help us get the lab started.
Excuse me, what was that position, Rick? I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, the last one was the gaming lab manager.
Oh, lab manager. Okay,
Right.
got it. Yeah.
In addition, our CFAO, Derek Lennon, has followed up with the WIN representatives as the commission requested regarding their comments on the budget. I understand they had a good discussion and Derek was able to answer some key questions for the representatives. Our high-performance team, working with our consultants, has made great progress identifying a recommended policy manual for the agency, and we expect an update on the 24th with a preliminary discussion concerning performance measures and supporting goals. Licensing has received another gaming vendor primary application and is busy testing our licensing management system. We've also received our portable fingerprint scanning equipment and are expecting our permanent system soon. The use of this technology will make our process more efficient as we move closer to the dates when we need to have a process ready for a larger number of applicants. In addition to extensive support that we get from our legal division, they also developed and conducted yesterday an excellent training session for staff concerning state and commission ethics requirements. Our technology staff, in cooperation with the state IT, has successfully installed wireless service at the commission offices. The additional speed and capacity will be very helpful as the commission moves forward with its final evaluation of Region A applications. Our staff team working on the central management system evaluation Made a quick trip to Ohio this week, although very long, I understand. They'll also complete a conference call with Maryland and a trip to Maine next week, so that we are looking at both sides of the equation, those that have a central system and those that don't. And the commission is scheduled to hear a report from our staff on the 24th. Our monitoring and pre-opening regulations are up for final approval today. Our slot regulations on the 24th. We should start on new topics in August, including licensing, reporting, financial, and internal controls. And we have to revisit our alcohol regulations as we work through the first half of, the last half of this year, so we can be ready for a Penn opening. Then, that's an update report that I have, unless the commissioners have any particular questions. I'll just kind of move on to the next topic.
Where's the fingerprinting going on now?
Right now, we're using the time-honored method of
Ink?
Ink and pads,
Ink
and
and
it's
roll,
going on upstairs in the reception areas.
And that, the live scan equipment will be up there at least until we move to new quarters.
That's correct.
Right.
We'll have the ability to take one live, that's the portable one, take one
Right.
live scan unit on location to use it there to facilitate the
Right.
process right
Right.
outside.
Right,
But we will have one permanently installed at the
Right.
agency.
okay, thanks.
Although I'm sure everybody will regret not being able to continue to use the ink.
Yeah, it's, right, I'm sure.
The next item is on May 29th. Penn reviewed a project schedule with the commission, and the commission granted a preliminary approval. Penn and Pink Company are back to present a more complete schedule to consider for final approval, which will then serve as the foundation for the quarterly project reports, which are scheduled to begin on July 24th before the commission. I'd like to turn this discussion over at this point to Jennifer Pink and Bill Perry for some initial comments, and Jack Rowland is with us again, who will present the project schedule.
Great.
Good morning,
Good
Commissioners.
morning.
Good morning.
As Executive Director Day said, we were here with Penn on May 29th to go over a preliminary schedule. And since that time, we've been working closely with them as they have developed a complete integrated baseline schedule, which integrates both the design and construction activities and activities which require Gaming Commission or other agency approval. And today, Penn is going to walk you through some of the major highlights of the schedule. And in your packet, you have two extracts from the schedule. The schedule is probably 100 pages long, so we didn't bring the whole thing.
Thank you.
Although you're welcome to get it if you'd like, anytime. But what we've extracted for your use, which we think are useful, are the critical path, and that's the 2 pages, and a list of activities which we think are also very critical, and some of them actually are also on the critical path, which are what I would call the external interfaces. Those are the activities that are required to open up the facility that require MGC approval, for example, or MassDOT approval, or getting your license from the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. So we've integrated all that in there, and I think what they have now is a very comprehensive schedule. As we said last time, we think the schedule is aggressive, but it's achievable. And today, Pink & Company would recommend that you approve the schedule. It's a live document, so things will change, and when Penn comes quarterly to report on it, you'll see that some things have moved around. The key thing on a schedule is to meet your milestone dates. So before I turn over this to Jack Brown on my right, I thought it would be useful if Bill Perry, who's part of the Pink & Company team and master scheduler, just to walk you through what that means, those colors. You know, it's a somewhat of a specialized software, Primavera, and Bill's an expert. So I'd like to ask him to take about a minute or a little bit more to talk about it, and then we'll turn it over to Jack.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'd like to give you just a little bit of background on scheduling and what a schedule is, and I'll be brief and try not to bore you. It's a very complicated topic, and just want you to have some basic knowledge of it, because you'll be hearing a lot about it. I apologize in advance for those of you who already may know about this, but I'll go forward anyway.
Yeah,
It
no
would be helpful.
apologies. This will be very helpful.
Okay. It would be helpful during this discussion if you turn to the critical path in your schedule, in your packet. I'll be referring to different things on that, which will be
Right.
helpful. Okay. So, first and foremost, what is a schedule? It's basically a network of work activities and put together in a logical sequence. In other words, what has to happen before other things can happen. Each activity, it's basically a big to-do list. Each activity within the schedule will have a predecessor, something that has to happen before it, and a successor, something that can happen only after that one's complete. So they're all logically tied, and it's called logic ties that connect each one of them. Now, if you had an activity, a schedule that only had 3 things to do, it would be pretty simple. But when you have so many activities as we do, and we have just under 1,000 activities that are currently in the schedule, and you start to connect them all, just imagine a spider web. And each time the webs intersect, there's an activity there to do. So it gets pretty confusing, and that's why we've got Primavera software, which helps us keep track of things. So essentially, that's what a schedule is. Now, we're calling this a baseline schedule. And a baseline schedule we came in late May with a preliminary schedule. And it was preliminary because it didn't have everything in it that we wanted. Predominantly all the Mass Gaming Commission activities, things that we'll be relying on you guys to approve or actions for you to do. We've got those identified, they're in the schedule now. We're happy with it being a full schedule that covers all of the scope of this project. So it comes forward as a baseline. Typically, a baseline schedule is done at the very beginning of a project, and once it's approved, then you go forward and do all of the activities. This one's a little different in that when you look at our schedule, the baseline schedule we're giving you, there's a lot of things that have already been done, and that's just the nature of this project. So don't get confused that because we're calling it a baseline schedule, it means we're just starting. Obviously, you know we're not. So that's what a baseline means. Now, if you refer to this, you'll see kind of in the middle of the page a long blue vertical line. That's what's called the data date. And each schedule will have a data date. And in other words, that tells you the date that the schedule is current as of that date. It's a snapshot in time. And it shows behind the data date or to the left of the data date what activities have been completed, and to the right of the data date shows what activities are left to do and when we're projecting them to be complete. Okay. This particular schedule has a data date of June 23rd. Now, it's important to understand, too, that schedules will change. They get updated all the time. On this project, Turner is updating the schedule weekly. Every Monday morning, the scheduler goes to the field, gets the current status of all the activities, calls around, gets the status of other activities not shown in the field, and inputs that into the schedule, hits the calculation button, and it calculates. So it's updated weekly. And things will change. Things will go back and forth. If things go past the projected completion date, which Penn is shooting for June of 2015, if things happen to change in a negative way, then they get together on Thursdays, which is what they'd be doing today if they weren't here. But they'd be getting together to see what happened and make the adjustments necessary to still keep on time. So they're doing that every week. And typically, on projects, they're only done once a month. This project, they're doing it every week, so that's very good. And I think one last point that I'd like to talk about is the critical path. So what is the critical path? You'll be hearing a lot of that. And if you had, it's basically a calculation of the longest path within the schedule network. If you had a schedule that was 3 activities and each one was 1 day, and you couldn't do the second one until you did the first one, couldn't do the third one until you did the second one. Critical path would be 1 + 1 + 1, be 3 days. Simple calculation. When you have a spider web of activities, it becomes a little bit more complicated, and that's what Primavera does for us. So it's a calculation of the longest path. And the thing to know about the critical path is, if any activity on the critical path, if the dates change, so will the end date. So if things slide out or slide in, the end date will change. And the other thing to know about a critical path is, it can change from update to update. As activities get completed, there'll be new activities added. Things might be completed early, things might be completed later. The critical path can change, and it probably will during the course of this. So no two critical paths will probably ever be the same, so just understand that. That's basically what I'd like to cover. Are there any questions?
Cover the colors.
Oh, yes, thank you. And you'll see 4 different colors. There's a little legend down the bottom. But essentially, what it means is, if you look at the date-to-date, anything to the left or behind the date-to-date is shown in blue. That means it's completed work. Anything ahead of the date-to-date is shown in either green or red. Red means it's on the critical path, and green means it's not on the critical path, it's just off the critical path. So those activities that are in green, they can slide a little bit, they can float out in time and still not necessarily impact the critical path. Some of them, if they float out too late, they might end up on the critical path. And the black essentially is just summary bars, where you want to group a bunch of activities into one particular thing. It's a summary bar. Of course, the black diamonds are shown as milestones.
All right, that's very helpful. Thank you very much. At some point, I would like to, and maybe today's not the day, but I would like to think about and focus on the level of reporting and detail that's appropriate for us. It seems to me quite clear that there's a level for Turner and Penn, there's a level for Pink, and there's a level for us. And it strikes me, initially at least, that the amount of detail by the time it gets to us is far less than is necessary to do day-to-day stuff. And I know this is an abstract, so whether this is the right format or some other, I hope we can talk about. Okay. Jennifer or Jack?
Jack.
And thank you both for that, appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Back on May 29th, we met and the commission gave us approval of a preliminary schedule that targeted a June 2015 opening. In the past 6 weeks, quite a bit of work has been done. I think you have some pictures in your packet to point that out. And we still feel, although it's only been 6 weeks, it's been 6 weeks of critical work, that we're still very much on target for a June 2015 opening. Some critical work has been put in place, foundations for the casino building, underground utilities and parking lot storm drain work for throughout the site, steel erection, which you can see on your picture. So quite a bit has been done. There's been a real physical, a noticeable physical change in the past 6 weeks in terms of the work we've done. But some other things have happened too. When we met with you last time, we told you it was critical that we continue all design activities, remaining design activities, so that they be done by the end of July, so that we can have finality to design and get on with procurement and related activities. That remains very much on target. Design is critical to us, and right now we remain on target to get it done by the end of July. Permitting was another one. We told you on May 29th we had permits in place to cover the core and shell, or basically the exterior construction of the building. We obviously still have that. And that carries us out through November. We've also made other filings with the town of Plainville for fit-out work that will take us well out into the spring. So we expect that permit in August. So essentially by the end of August, design complete, and all permits necessary to fit out the building will be in our hands. And that process is going pretty smoothly. Jennifer, can we get to this picture? There you go, thank you. Bill has defined the baseline schedule and the critical path, but as he said, those are two other tools for us that have come together very nicely over the past few weeks, and now are in our possession to use every day. With those schedules establish some key milestone activities for us. The building enclosure is the next one on our, or the next big one on our list. We are still targeting that for November. The schedule still supports November, and that's critical for us to get the building enclosed and allow us to work through the winter effectively. Long lead items. On the construction side is where the focus is right now. There are non-construction long lead items, slot machines, gaming systems, other things like that. They will come in the coming months. But right now it's on the construction side, and over the past few weeks and months, we have procured the likes of elevators, critical HVAC gear, generators, steel obviously because it's going up. And we are now currently working on the photovoltaic panel procurement for our lead activity and energy savings. So right now, those are a sample of a number of critical long lead items that we have either in hand or in the works, and we feel that whole process is going very well. Interior finishes is, driven off the design that will be done in July, allow us to have details in our hands, so in the fall and the early winter, we can procure, plan with Turner for the interior construction, and have that work done in the winter and early spring of next year on the inside of the building. The next three, the flooring installed, surveillance and security, and install and testing of slot machines are kind of, they're items we look at as a bundle, that as we finish the interior construction, the focus then turns to getting flooring down, so that, and also getting a surveillance system working and in operation, so we can accept slot machines onto the floor. So in the late winter and early spring, that's when that process starts, and those three kind of work as a critical group for us, all to position the construction activities to allow slots to be placed on the floor. And that's targeted, that last is targeted for April of 2015. The last one is one we've spoken often about here with you, and that's traffic improvements. At this point, we still are viewing two different scopes of work in terms of off-site traffic improvement. A number of improvements related to the Route 1 and 152 intersection, and a separate scope of work related to what we've often referred to all as the median break, which is a direct entry into our facility from Route 1 through a traffic signal, and some related improvements to the 495 southbound off-ramp so that traffic can flow more easily directly into our facility and avoid the Route 1 and 152 jug handle. We are still detailing, designing, engineering, all of those related activities so that we can proceed and try to accomplish that work, both pieces, before we open. Right now, the critical item for us on traffic improvements is to hear from MassDOT. We are told that we should be hearing soon, and we hope what we hear is that both scopes of work are permitted or are approved to proceed for a June 2015 completion. That being the case, and with some continuing cooperation from MassDOT, we think we'll be in a position to permit complete design and permit those activities by October, start selected work in the fall, continue certain work through the winter, and finish up all the work by the time we open in June 2015. So provided, and assuming we hear from MassDOT soon, that remains our plan. Unless
Chuck,
you,
yes.
yes.
I'm just curious, because you mentioned flooring as part of the key milestones. Is there raised floor, or is most infrastructure going to be on drop ceiling?
It's a raised floor.
Raised floor?
Yeah, with electrical conduit under to connect into the slot machines. Now, we blew by the critical path schedule. If there are no particular questions on that, I think Bill did a great job of explaining it. And I think, from our side, we would just add that this is very much a living document every day. In particular, if you look at this one, it happens to show a opening date of July the 3rd. And, you know, we're not conveying to you today that that's our opening date. This is a very precise, detailed tool, and right now, that's what the mathematics show. We ran one yesterday, and the same date happens to show June 26th. So we take both of those and look at them critically and say, well, does it still support our belief that we can get this done in June of 2015? And it does. So unless there's other particular questions, we'll go by the critical path.
Let me ask you, I have a couple quick questions on the critical path. You can pull me aside and tell me what pouring bulls and pouring lions are, but first of all, your involvement with our vendor advisory task force, is this something that we can share with them? As I think we're scheduled to meet with them next week, give them kind of an idea of where you are in the process.
Sure.
Just a quick question down into July, it looks like July 8th or 9th of 2015, where you have a line talking about maximizing local hiring. You just help me understand that action item a little bit more closely.
I think that's really a continuing item throughout the process, Commissioner, that it's one of many hiring and other goals, that it's not anything particular to July the 8th. It's a continuing process.
Okay.
If I might add, in order to try to make this readable, we suggested that some of these columns not be shown, but if you were to go back to the original schedule, there's a start column that's to the left of the finish column, and some of those start dates were last month. They are just ongoing efforts all the way.
Another way to look at it is look at the duration as well,
Exactly. Or the duration.
which is in the,
And there is I guess, a sort of a difference there. If you look at the long red line at the bottom, that talks about certain post-opening studies that we committed to do as part of the host and surrounding community agreements. That is one, Commissioner, that starts after we open and continues for a year.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
That's that bottom red line
About
here.
the long red line there.
will you be producing in the future a commission to do look-ahead critical milestone?
I think
Hopefully.
we have a schedule.
Okay.
Our first attempt at that
Okay.
is coming up
Is
in a
the
couple
next-
of
The next
slides.
document,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
And in fact, we can go to that if you would, please.
The last,
Keep going. That one.
I think it's the last page.
the last page, there
That's
you
it,
go.
yeah, that's it.
Nope, up. There you go.
That one.
What we, it's labeled external interfaces as well.
When we met on May 29th, one of the takeaways you gave us was to try to provide some detail on certain non-construction activities, in particular, critical things that we need from you in order to support our progress and our ultimate opening. And that's what we've tried to do here. I'll draw your attention to that one section called regulatory approvals. And there's a list of about 25 items that we gave thought to and have now been scheduled as part of our continuing process. And I'll just draw your attention to several. The second, third, and fourth items have to do with design approvals. You know, as we said, our design work from our design team will be done in July. We hope in the month of August we can secure from you guys all the approvals we need for exterior design, interior layout, and anything else under your design approval purview, so that by the end of August we have these things in place. And I think we're actually on the schedule for your schedule for August 7th to do that. So there are a couple items like that we are trying to bring to your attention that we need commission action on.
What does the SG&R mean in these?
Springfield Gaming and Redevelopment.
Oh.
That's us. Okay.
It's good to know.
I thought that
We-
was
we-
that was part of the
We use
class.
acronyms and Turner uses animals. So that's
Yes.
That's the lion.
the lion and the bull and everything else.
Lion, cheetah, tiger, bull.
There are a couple other there, 4 or 5 items down. Develop and issue surveillance systems specifications. That's a good example of several items that we link together. Surveillance system, slot machine specifications, slot monitoring systems, things in that category that we are looking by the end of September to receive direction, specifications, regulations and the like, so we know what slots we can use and systems we can buy and go out and procure those and get in the manufacturing queue for next spring. So there are a number of those that fall into that category. And then there are several, about 2/3 of the way down, that have to do with the system of internal controls. Our past experience with this shows that that's a very critical topic, and that's what we wanted to bring to your attention, that by the end of September, we would be looking for direction from the Commission on what regulations on internal control will be. They affect many different aspects of our operations. The sooner we know what those expectations and requirements are, the sooner we can plan for them. So this particular grid has a couple of items in it that suggest we need Commission approval, or not approval, issuance of draft internal controls by the end of September, and I understand from Rick you're on target to do that. That we would compile our submission on internal controls and have it back to you before the end of the year, and expect and hope to get approval on those internal controls by the end of January. With that in hand, not only from the design and construction side, but from the operations side, we can plan as to how we best comply with those regulations. So that list of about 25 items there are grouped towards those types of items as to how we see what we need from you guys over the next few months, how we would make various submissions, and the types of approval dates that we'd be looking for to keep our schedule going. And I hope as you read it, that's clear.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And is that section and some of these other sections, well, actually, is everything on this schedule, this external interfaces schedule, is the impact of, how is the impact of missing one of those deadlines accounted for in the overall project plan? Not that we're going to miss any, but there may be things beyond our control that we ought to be alerted to
Sure.
the consequences of missing, so that we can put our weight behind trying to get them done.
Well, that goes back to the calculations that Primavera does for us. So we track all of these activities.
Right.
If for some reason one of them goes out a month late,
Right.
we're going to know about it as we're going there.
Right.
But you put it out a month, you hit calc, and it recalculates critical path, and you know right then and there what the impact is. We then look at the activities down the line to see what we can accelerate to pull things back.
But that is, I get it, but that is if the deadline is missed. I'm thinking about what the consequences of missing a deadline. For example, some of the things in the 25 things that we need to do, and again, we're going to try and meet all these deadlines, but some of them, if we don't meet the deadline, that's not going to be automatically pushing something back on the schedule. Other things may well be.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah, but others may.
Right. I mean, I think if we lag a month on the whole process of internal controls, does that crater the schedule? No, it doesn't. It presents challenges, but it wouldn't necessarily crater the schedule.
Right, and I guess I'm looking for the things that are on this list that are on a critical path.
They're in red.
Right now, I
I
think
don't
there's
see
only,
anything in red.
I think if you look at the critical path, the last two items,
Oh, I didn't look at the other half. Okay,
so, but that might change in the future.
right, okay, I got it. It's there.
Our goal here was to try to bring to your attention the critical but not exhaustive list of things that we feel we'll need from you. When we can get the details, when we would make submissions, when we would get approvals.
And embedded in the schedule, those things are tied to other activities. They don't stand out there on their own, but we extracted them. So you could see, and for the staff's use, what the timetable is to get them, for Penn to get them, things in for approval, and for the Gaming Commission to get out for implementation.
No, I still don't see it. Okay, but we can talk about that further. We don't have to talk about it here.
Yeah, I'll,
I-
well, the key here is that some of these activities the critical path may change, and that's why it's important to look at the schedule, continuously. I think it's great and aggressive. I might add that you're looking at it every week. But we have to figure out the level of reporting, and that's why we have the able people in front of us to figure out which activity at which point becomes more critical than previously anticipated.
Okay. That's generally the information. Just in conclusion, wanted to leave you with the fact that, from our view, at this point in the project, design and permitting are on track for work to continue. Work to date is on schedule. Work is positioned to continue on schedule based on design and permitting being where they are. We have critical tools like the baseline schedule and the critical path now in place to help us. We have a more defined and I hope useful list of regulatory needs from you. And when we add those all up, we still feel very comfortable, albeit at an early stage, very comfortable that we are on target for June 2015.
And we would concur.
Great. That's a nice presentation. One question. You mentioned a couple of things coming up that could present a challenge. Have you had any challenges to date that you've had to overcome? I mean, this has been a positive report.
There's challenges every day. I think we have a good, focused team. We have Turner who pushes us very hard every day that if we don't sign this, approve that, keep this moving, that there are consequences, and we try to be reactive to that. Right now, this is how we see it. So, there are challenges every day, and I think so far we're lining them up and managing them.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, I think this is really a very helpful and positive report as well. I still am, there are three things that I still think that we need to work out with ourselves and Pink primarily, I think. One is what level of detail, optimal detail, do we get in our quarterly reports? Is this the optimal detail? Maybe, maybe not, but we need to work that out. The second thing is, what is it that we need to do, and what are the consequences of not doing it? I think this list tells us what we need to do, and we'll try to do it on time, but the consequences of not doing it are not clear to me at this moment. And the third thing is, where are the things, where are the external interfaces that we're not responsible for that are critical, and when are if they fall behind, and how can we be alerted so that we can do something to try and help with the external entity to get them done on time? Those are three things that.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is the MassDOT, the
Right,
oversight roadway
right.
improvements, and I know we've had tremendous opportunity to dialogue with you guys on
Right,
that.
right. And maybe continuing dialogue is the best way to deal with it. Maybe there's no reporting kind of thing, but it's those three areas that jump out to me. I don't know what.
No, I would say those are the major ones. And by the way, I might add that the outside infrastructure is a great example of how the critical path can shift
Right.
literally from the inside to the outside or the other
Right.
way around,
Right.
depending on what happens with permitting and MassDOT, for example, or with the installation inside the building on everything that they have to install. But I think you've outlined, the main areas, which, and all we need to do is really figure out that optimal level of reporting. I also see some ad hoc at times reporting, either because of a recent update and there's an unforeseen condition that happens, of course, which is why I think, having Pink is very, giving us their objective
Right.
assessment of things is also very helpful.
Commissioners?
Can I just put in my 2 cents worth, Commissioner?
Surely.
I agree with basically the observations you all were making. I think it's really important also, however, that we're sensitive to not over-bureaucratizing this process, not
Right.
I mean, there's lots of people managing this.
Right,
Lots
yes.
of people. We're all interested, I think, in the same thing. We have a common interest in getting it open as soon as we can. You know, let's not do a lot of mate work or just get in everybody's way by overseeing too much. So we just need to be careful about that. What we especially do need to be attentive to is the deadlines that are in our court. You know, we want to make absolutely sure that we don't get in the way by not doing the things that are critical path items on our own agenda.
That's why, again, we hope that that particular list is useful and we
Very
can
useful.
always expand it. The way we look at it, getting design approvals from you greatly facilitates our process.
Right.
Getting understanding of specs for critical items like slots, gaming systems, those things that just aren't on the shelf. Getting those wrapped up this fall so we have plenty of time to procure and get in manufacturing queues, that's critical to us.
And the other thing I expect that we might do, and already Executive Director Days asked us for a mini schedule. Could you break out in detail what the slot procurement activity looks like from Penn? So the commission knows exactly what its milestones are, and they can do that on any on many of these tasks. For example, right now, and Jack reminded me that the opening schedule, to get this thing open, the operations folks are going to have their own detailed schedule. There's probably hour by hour. There's going to have all kinds of people who may be with Turner, maybe with Penn, maybe outside vendors, and so they're going to break out that schedule down the road. This is really, you know, it's both a big picture roadmap and a detailed roadmap, but there's still there are other things that can be looked at in minutia, should you need to.
Well, but that's great to know, and I'm sure it's there, but that ties back into the chairman's point, and it's the optimal level of information for us, because I don't think any of us wants to get down into, except on very rare occasions conceivably.
I think it's staff may, but you don't.
Right,
That would be my sense.
Right. Well-
Commissioners, if I might just toss in for a minute, is what we've been doing too until this point, we've been sort of estimating what are the key areas that we need to move forward
Right.
and develop the timeline to do that. What this helps with us, obviously, is actually gives us Penn's perception of when they need what
Right.
items completed in their
Right.
viewpoint. And so we for a quick reference, I'm going to hit a couple of the points that were mentioned in this list of 26 items to give the commission a flavor of where we are in that process. One of the critical areas was the identification of gaming office space on location. Target date from Penn was 8/29. We should have agreement with that on July 15th or next week, so we should be well ahead of that. That, of course, ties into the whole concept of their ability to get an approval from the commission on their floor plan, which the target is August 29th. It's scheduled on your schedule for August 7th, which is ahead of schedule and should provide the time to get it done. The surveillance target date for Penn was 9/19, and the commission approved the surveillance regulations on 6/26, so we're also on ahead of schedule there. Slot monitoring, the target date was 10/17. At this point, the commission has on 7/24 for a report, a more detailed report on whether to move forward with the slot monitoring project. Internal controls, target date there was 9/30, as was mentioned by Penn. We have a scheduled draft of the regulations to the commission on 8/21. So we pushed that line, I think, about as far as we can push it, and it's one of those areas that we need to now make sure we meet those dates we have.
Right.
Slot requirements, the target date for procurement was October 1st from Penn. The regulations are scheduled for final action July 24th of this month. So those are just to give you a quick idea that a number of those areas we are moving forward either on target or early. This particular step will help us have something to cross-check it against to see what we can do better, what issues that we can move forward, and those that we have to wait longer.
Great.
I think this was a very reassuring exchange that we
Right.
had yesterday to know that the things we deem as critical, staff is on top of.
Right, that's great, that's great.
Yeah, I agree, Rick. That's great. That's really good to hear, and I'm really pleased about that close coordination.
Right, that's great, very exciting. Okay, what's next?
I
Oh,
believe.
wait a minute,
Yeah,
before
I
we get
believe
to a
we're
vote.
here to,
Oh,
yeah.
Did you have a question?
No, that they're here to.
To get a vote?
get a vote, yeah.
But before we get a vote, there's one thing that I left that I don't understand. What's that photograph show? The photograph shows some part of that's the one,
The column
thing,
and the joists.
yeah, I know, but I mean, where? What are we
That
looking
is
at?
the casino building exterior structure.
It's between the racetrack and the parking garage.
Correct.
Between the racetrack and the parking lot?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I think we even gave you a second picture. It might be in your packets. Interesting to look at the difference a week makes.
Right,
That,
right.
This was 2 weeks ago, or I'm sorry, this is on or about the June 30th. This was yesterday. So there's
Great.
in
All
a
right.
10-day period of time, there's a picture worth
Good.
looking at here
All
in
right.
terms of progress.
That's great. All right.
Jack, I was hoping maybe Jack would also introduce
Thank
the
you.
gentlemen that are with him today, so, just for the commissioners and.
Emil Giordano from Turner, project executive.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Let's get a plug in for my boss, Jim Baum from Penn National Gaming.
How are you?
How are you?
Hello.
And also, Gary, would you stand up, please? You didn't need to drag him into anything today, but this is Gary McNaughton from McNann Associates. They are traffic planners and transportation advisors to us.
Great, great. Nice to see you. Oh, wow, this is a dramatic difference. 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. All right, so you need a vote to approve the construction plan as detailed in the materials that are in the packet today. Is there a motion to that effect?
Yes, I would move that this commission approve the overall project schedule as presented, baseline project schedule as presented here today, as required by our regulations.
All right, is there a second for that?
Second.
Is there further discussion? All right, hearing none. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Zuniga?
Aye.
Commissioner Cameron?
Aye.
Commissioner McHugh, aye. Chairman Crosby?
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously, and we have a baseline schedule. Great.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Commissioner McHugh, that gets us to the next item, which is the diversity report. Our diversity report this time from Trupti Vanda, our HR manager. It was at the commission's request, and Trupti is here to provide a brief update regarding our hiring statistics.
Great.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning.
So today,
Thank you.
I'm here to provide you with an update on our diversity statistics. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Better?
Yes.
All right. Update on our diversity statistics at the Gaming Commission as a whole. In total, we have 85 employees at the Gaming Commission, of which 42 in the gaming area and 43 in the racing division. Of the 43 in the racing division, we have 37 employees who are seasonal at 2 of the tracks, Plain Ridge and Suffolk Downs. Our goal is to align our diversity statistics to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as we support the licensees across the state and the employees travel outside of the Boston area to come to, the Gaming Commission or our tracks. And nearly 50% of our employees are outside of Boston. So that is sort of our rationale behind the statistics that we'll be looking at to align our diversity. Currently, Massachusetts is at 19.6% diverse, and Greater Boston is 34.4% diverse. And our goal is to align with the Commonwealth, and ideally somewhere between the Commonwealth and Greater Boston would be our target. So with that said, at the Gaming Commission, our diversity is at 16%. And we definitely have some work to do, but I don't think we're too far off. And in terms of the ratios that we have from male to female, we are doing very well there. We're 62% female and 38% male. For the Commonwealth as well as Greater Boston, it's in the 51%, 52% range. So we're doing a little bit better there. So that's kind of what our statistics look like. And as we develop this benchmark, this is a good, we have a data point as to where we are, and as far as direction is where we want to go. And with that said, we're working to capture data on employees who are coming in to the Gaming Commission and ensuring that there's a diverse pool as part of our hiring practice. And we're working to reach out to networks, diverse networks, to extend the reach of our open positions for a variety of the roles. And in terms of one other additional data point that I do have is in the area of senior management, we are 25% diverse, and the ratio male to female is 50-50.
What was that ratio? I didn't hear you.
50-50. Oh, no, excluding the commissioners. I didn't, because you're appointed.
Yes, we can see that we're not 50/50.
No, no, no.
All right.
So, so that is some data points that we have here. Any questions?
Does the 16% include the 43 racing employees?
Yes,
So
that's
it's
total. The
16%
gaming-
including them?
Yes. So the gaming alone is at 19% diverse.
So the folks we've hired independently, we're at 19%?
Yes,
Okay. Racing, most of those folks we brought in from another agency.
correct.
Okay. So we have some work to do on the racing side of the house.
Absolutely. And I'm planning on sitting down with Director Durenberg and looking to have some discussions around some challenges within the industry as a whole, and hoping to put a plan together around reaching out to technical, vet tech areas where we could have diverse pool of candidates and some community colleges. We have 22 vet techs who we hired in a seasonal capacity, so I think that there is some opportunity there.
Excellent. Thank you.
I think there's some good opportunities to, maybe at the end of this racing season, to do a lot more outreach to
Correct.
community colleges and other folks about careers in racing, albeit even if it's just seasonal work. But I think we could do a little bit more on that front in terms of promoting job awareness and career ladder awareness for positions that we have available.
Overall, as a whole, I've been working on developing a network or a list of areas where we can have an outreach to, and for racing, we have to focus specifically on some of those areas.
On the racing
Is there
side,
rationale about why we should match the state numbers?
I'm sorry?
I couldn't quite hear
Oh.
what you said, how you explained the rationale for why we should match the state percentages.
Sure. Although we're located right in Boston, and our assumption is that majority of the makeup of the employees would be from Boston or the greater Boston area, we do have a large number of employees who travel outside of greater Boston area to work for the state. And with that said, we also support the racing division. Racing division is part of the Gaming Commission, and some of those positions are outside of the Boston area. And we, in order for us to account for numbers that align for the Commonwealth, I think that we should align. If we are supporting 50% of our staff who are outside of the Commonwealth, then we should, outside of Boston, we should align the numbers to the Commonwealth as a whole.
You mean outside of Boston or outside of greater Boston?
Outside of greater Boston, excuse me.
So we have 50% of our employees from outside of greater Boston?
I would say yes, because greater Boston is defined as, according to the U.S. Census of 2012, cities such as Arlington, Belmont, Boston, Burlington, Cambridge, Chelsea, Dedham, Everett, Medford, Malden, Melrose. So we do have employees, a good number of employees who are from outside of those areas. And we also will intend to have licensees who will intend to support or regulate.
I would also add to that set of answers, or that set of points, that we are essentially a state agency. We will
Correct.
have a lot of operations in Springfield, for example.
Well, we will, but we don't at the moment.
No, I know, but we are currently a state agency, so reflecting the composition of the state may be a more realistic and attainable or appropriate, goal. But I do like your point about somewhere in between.
Yes.
The greater Boston or Boston and the state overall is perhaps the most optimal goal.
Right. That's where I was going to, Commissioner.
Yep.
And, I think we've been saying this to our licensees as well. We want these goals to be aggressive goals. We want these to be goals that push the envelope. And to say that our goal is 19% doesn't seem to me like we're doing that. I think our goal, at a minimum, ought to be somewhere between, as Enrique said, somewhere between the state and the region. So, more like a 25 or 6 or 7% ought to be what we're aiming for.
So I agree with that, and I think that's what Trupti pointed out, that we want to be in between there. One of the things that we could do that's similar to what the registry does is when you're hiring location specific, so where their branches are, try to make your diversity measures match up to that geographical region, which I think is more of a realistic approach. So we can set a baseline, but then when we're in Boston, try to, Region A, whatever Region A becomes being, set our diversity statistics for those specific hires similar to that, and when we go to Region B, do similar.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I just think that it's important what we say is the goal. This goes back to, Director Day's performance management business, and I don't think it's right for us to say our goal is 19%. I think our goal should be, for the sake of discussion, at least 25%.
Mr. Chair, that might have been difficult for you to hear, but that was stated clearly, that the goal was...
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I thought Trupti said that the goal was to match the state, and maybe we could do a little better, and I just wanted to make sure it's not maybe we can do a little better. That's what our objective is.
Yes, that is our objective, and at the bare minimum, we're not quite there yet at 16%. The bare minimum should be at 19.6, but our goal is to be somewhere between Commonwealth and Greater Boston.
Okay.
So that would be between 19.6 and 34.4, which aligns with the 25 that you're thinking.
Okay. All right, great.
The racing piece at less than 16% does not include all of the people who are working at the tracks, right? Because many of those are not our employees.
Correct.
Is there any reason that we should be tracking the diversity of the employees who are working for others at the track? I don't want to raise more problems than, or issues than we already have. I suppose that's never been done. I don't know if there's any, and I don't know that we need an answer to that today. I just raised that as a question.
Well, we will get reports from our licensee, our gaming licensees, relative to their whole diversity. That's part of their plan. They will report to us on both construction and operations. If we had a parallel, maybe Director Durenberger can help us, with the racing licensee, existing track, for example.
But some are not employed by the racing licensee.
Correct.
If I may?
Yes, please.
We did look at occupational licensees and whether any other jurisdictions recorded diversity of the occupational licensees that were issued, the occupational licenses that were issued, and we found no precedent for that. We thought that was an important story to tell because historically the diversity of our people that work directly with the horses is a pretty significant percentage. We found no precedent for that.
Okay, we can't answer that today. I just put it on the table to think about. Should we be doing it, and if so, how? And if not, why not?
Certainly. Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Durenberger.
Commissioner McHugh and Commissioners, our next topic is about gaming positions. And briefly, you've probably obviously probably recall, but the commission asked for public comment regarding its discussion about the feasibility of allowing more than a single gaming position per slot machine, which is what our current draft regulations reflect. John Glennon is here to discuss those comments that were received and also offer just a draft of what language might work for a concept that was discussed at the time at the meeting. The idea would be is based on the commission's decisions today, we would either amend our regulations that were ready to final on the 24th or leave the current language that we have already in the proposed regulations.
Okay.
So with that, John's ready.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rick. Commissioners, so the last time we discussed this topic on June 12th was in response to a letter which is in your packet from Penn dated May 22nd. We had a discussion. There was a presentation about some alternatives by Attorney Stetnoff. There was some suggestions made. We agreed to come back before you. We requested public comment, and there were two additional letters which were received, which are also in your packet. We received a letter from Mohegan on June 18th, and then another letter from Penn via their attorneys on the 27th. So those three letters are in your packet, and I'm really here just to tee up the discussion for you here today because I think it's a decision on the part of the commission on what you want to do. So there is some current language, so if we can go to the deck and go to the second slide, there you go. So the current language it basically makes a gaming position equivalent to a slot machine, and we have some proposed language for your consideration that makes a multiple gaming position machine or a table game, classify it as a single slot machine, but allow additional gaming positions up to 250, which would, so at this point, I think it's really up to the commission to have a discussion, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The language on the previous slide is the language from 23K, Section 2, right?
Yes, it is, Commissioner.
And the language on the next slide
Is in the draft regulations, which will come back before you for
Right.
final promulgation on the 24th.
right, okay. Do we define in that regulation, set of regulations that'll come back for final approval, do we define what a gaming position is? There is a statutory definition of that.
For purposes, it's the language here. Each gaming position is defined at a slot machine shall be considered a separate slot machine. So
That-
equal,
that-
one to one.
That defines what a slot machine is. It doesn't define what a gaming position is. A gaming position is defined in the statute as a position, as a place from which a person, I think, a person can play a game, basically. It's more precise than that. Do we
You know-
have similar,
You know, I don't know the answer to that, I'm embarrassed to say. The regulations are in the packet.
right?
But I believe it would be the reverse of this. It would be equating a gaming position to a slot machine. Ticket in, ticket out.
I'm not making myself clear. There is a definition in the statute, because the statute encompasses, because gaming positions existed both at slot machines and at table games, and the license fees are based on gaming positions, and so there's a definition in there of what a gaming position, independent of slot machines, is. I need not detain you now, but
I think the fee, the $600 fee is
It's on
based on
gaming
slot
positions.
machines, not
That's right.
gaming positions.
the assessment, the overall net assessment is in proportion to the number of gaming positions. The difference between the money we get from the slot machine licenses, annual license fees, and our operating costs is allocated among the licensees in proportion to the number of gaming positions in each licensee. And there is therefore a definition of gaming position. It just seems to me that if we're going to, however we deal with this, we ought to have a definition of what a gaming position is, and we can do that. That's,
Commissioner McHugh, I don't see it in the current slot regulations.
Okay.
So we will take a look at that as we finish up on this issue.
okay. So, assuming we get by that, and we will, The question is, what do we want to do with additional, 250 additional gaming positions?
I've stated that, that point before, and I am of the opinion that we should allow that, that the ambiguity that the statute created with the two definitions gives the licensee, Penn in this case, the slots parlor licensee, a little leeway, one that other licensees don't have to worry about, because there's no limit to those, to how many games, slot machines or gaming positions they can place. Because this one has a limit, and there's this ambiguity, and because this is our first licensee who in many ways is carrying a lot of the costs that we incur, you know, granted they would be the first ones to market. I am of the opinion, and because there's 49% to benefit for the Commonwealth, I would be of the opinion of allowing the proposed language as stated here, you know, some additional gaming positions, but limited to the slot machines, to the 1250 slot machines.
I would agree with that assessment, and I am, you know, I read the additional comments, and I think this is a very reasonable number. And I just think the option for, you know, we really want to be competitive, and the option for the gamer to be able to have a different experience is important. And I don't see, you know, we spoke an awful lot the first time we debated this about making sure we were not being unfair to other, you know, full resort casinos in the Commonwealth. And I think this number is low enough as to not create a situation where competition is a real issue. And I really do, I am persuaded by the offering of a different experience, which this would allow, but not to the extent that it would create an unfair advantage.
Yeah, can I speak to that? Because I think that's a very important point that I also didn't mention. These would give the licensee the flexibility to not be constrained to have to choose between one slot machine as opposed to an electronic table game that the market may prefer, but would otherwise cost them in the number of seats. So, you know, it gives, again, some leeway as to what mix of products they can place their slot strategy with. But again, with the confines, within the confines of what I believe the statute intended, which is, you know, certain limit.
I'm in agreement.
What was the end of your sentence, Commissioner Zuniga? What you said about what the statute intended?
The statute intended to limit the overall number of slot machines in here. We're not opening the door wide open. We're just giving a leeway to the licensee by limiting the additional seats to 250. We're only giving them the leeway to select between a mix of products that may have more than one seat per slot machine.
Well, they can do that now. We don't need to give them extra. They could make some of the slot machines multiplayer machines. There's no reason why they can't have the mix now.
They would, but it would cost them, you know, if you're only limiting them to number of seats.
Well, maybe it would cost them, but that wasn't the point. Both you and Commissioner Cameron were saying it's good to give them the opportunity to have a broader
That's right.
mix of games, and this has nothing to do with them having a broader mix of games or not. I'm just a little bit troubled. I think it's a fairly harmless change, but I'm not at all sure that this really is what the legislature had in mind. You know, that if they didn't mean 1250, but they meant there could be 1250 with any number of multi-game positions and multi-game machines, what's the point of the 1250? And
Well,
why do
what's-
we cap it at 2%? I mean, presumably, if it's okay to cap it at 2%, we could, within the law, you're saying we could do it at 50% or 100% if we wanted to.
Well, but then if they wanted to be slot machine equal gaming position, they could have written it that way as well, and that's essentially the ambiguity that we are trying to resolve.
Right, but it seems to me that they said they put two definitions because when we assess the 600, is the 600 assessment on table game positions as well?
No, it's on slot machines.
So there's no other definition, there's no other meaning for gaming positions in the statute besides another way of referring to the slot machines?
No, there's a separate definition for gaming position in the statute. And it's, I don't have the language in front of me now, but it's a.
Oh, is that the one that talks about individual
No, it's a-
playing?
It's a position from which one can play a game. That's not exactly,
Yeah, the individual playing or operating, that's in the definition. Could somebody pull up the definition of gaming position?
yeah, I'm trying to do that right now.
I have the definition, Commissioner McHugh, if you
Okay.
would like it.
Great.
It's 23K Section 2, gaming position is defined as a designated seat or standing position where a patron of a gaming establishment can play a game. So position is designed to cover both those positions at slot machines and those positions at a table game, for example.
So it is.
And electronic table games, which is fundamentally here what we might be talking about.
But did that definition include people playing baccarat?
Yes, it would,
It would.
yes.
And so doesn't that explain why the issue of the ambiguity? They've got two definitions because one is referring to slot machines and one is referring to gaming positions, which is other kinds of positions, not just slot machines.
Well, the gaming position definition fits both. In other words, for tax purposes, even if there were a 1-to-1 ratio, the slot machine, the slots parlor would be assessed for the difference between the $600 fee and its share of our operating costs
Right.
in proportion to the 1,250 gaming positions, how that bore on the other gaming positions at other licensees. So for determining that amount of money, it's the gaming position, not the slot, that counts. So gaming position plays a role in a slots parlor, even if it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
Say that again?
Gaming position plays a role in determining the slots parlor's taxation, even if there are no multiple gaming position slot machines. So gaming position wasn't set up just to deal with table games. I guess that's my point.
Can I just edit that out because it's assessment, not taxation,
Well-
that you meant? Because
Okay. That's right, for assessment for our operating costs.
our operating costs.
So the $600, that goes to slot machines or that goes to gaming positions?
Slot machines.
Slot machines. I thought Penn was offering to pay $600 on the new gaming positions as well.
No, everything in excess, everything that we
Okay,
assess,
the assessment, I got it, okay, I'm sorry.
everything that we assess in excess of $600 per slot machine
Right.
is going to be apportioned proportionately on the basis of gaming positions.
Right,
And that would be fair across all of our licensees because that's just about everything else.
right, got it, okay.
The slot machine definition is extraordinarily broad, and while it is conceivable that the legislature didn't envision a multiple position slot machine specifically. It certainly created a definition that would encompass not only the traditional one-armed bandit, if you will, but a multiple position slot machine and a variety of other kinds of devices that will yield a reward or a prize without human intervention. So it seems to me that the legislature recognizing, one could view that definition as a legislative recognition of the evolutionary nature of what automatic prize-generating devices were.
Right.
And therefore, one can't, I think, reliably say that they didn't have a multiple position slot machine in mind when they drafted the statute.
Yeah, well, I get that. I'm not quite sure what the point of the 1250 was. If the 1250 didn't really mean 1250, it meant some multiple of 1250, a multiple which is up to us to determine, 2%, 50%, 1%, then what was the point of the 1250 if it didn't really mean 1250?
It was to prevent, I hear you.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that we can look at that either way, and that 250 more is de minimis in the overall scheme of things.
Right.
And that we, at the very least, take the 1250 as we don't want competition between the slots parlor and the casino, either solely on the slots front or on the table games front, and govern ourselves accordingly while allowing the slots parlor to attract patrons who are interested in, a few patrons who are interested in roulette.
Electronic table game, yeah.
So our rationale would be that the law is imprecise as to its intent, and this potentially enhances the revenue to the Commonwealth, makes the facility a more attractive facility in terms of repatriating dollars, and not a big enough number to really hurt anybody.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I guess I can go on with that.
Okay. Other thoughts? You're looking today, Director Glennon, simply for a position or a vote, or?
I think we're looking for your guidance on how to present the final regulations to you in 2 weeks. And so that, based on the conversation, your recommendation for the language change or not.
Well,
So we got that direction?
I would say, given all the discussion, I would say that it merits a vote as to whether to change the language to the proposed language based on this discussion, or keep the draft as originally drafted when it comes to the definition.
We could vote, or we could let Director Glennon bring back the revised regulation with the revised definition and then vote on that. That'd probably be a little cleaner.
That's fine, too.
Sure. I'd be happy to do that, and I'll also make sure that there's a clear definition of gaming position within the document.
Right. I just have a one caveat that occurred to me as we were having this discussion, and that's that what we do with respect to the physical facility and what we allow in the physical facility does not have any necessary implications for what we do in the internet area if we ever get there. I don't take a position one way or another there, but for me at least, it's important to recognize that this is dealing with the physical facility and nothing more. We just haven't gone beyond that, and we haven't considered that, and we haven't thought about it, and we haven't taken a position, policy or otherwise, on that. by implication or explicitly.
And this proposed language is specific to category 2,
Yes,
so
right,
that'll be helpful.
right, right. Okay,
I had a couple of other questions on CMR 143. Are we done with that now? Are we coming back to that?
So, but can I just, for conclusion, are we in agreement that we're asking Director Glennon to change the language to the proposed language and come back
Right.
with the regulation?
We are.
okay, 1,200, yeah, 1,250 with 250 gaming positions.
Not to exceed, yeah.
Yeah, the language that's. in
That's
it,
proposed, yeah.
right.
And Mr. Chairman, to the issue of 143, those are the regulations that I'm going to bring back in a couple of weeks. There are a lot of comments and a lot of input, and while I think I could answer questions today, I think I'm going to be much better prepared to talk about all of the conversations we've had with everybody around that, and including the outcome from the public meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, fine. Okay.
All right, so that means that you've got the guidance that you need today, and
Yes,
that's
thank you
very
very much.
helpful.
Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Good.
you.
Okay, then let's move on, Mr. Day, to item 4E.
Thank you,
If there-
Commissioner McHugh. See if what's, essentially what we were trying to do here is the commission at its last meeting made some decisions on Regency timelines, and so the idea today was just to come back to that briefly, reemphasize those, adjust our charts and supporting documents, and make sure we were on the same, all of us on the same page and understanding. And so what you have in your books is 2 documents, really, one prepared by John Ziemba that you're used to seeing, and then also a schedule that we developed, and it was just up in the chart here. Where'd it go? There it is. Anyway, looking at the schedule, it's the commission did is, if you look at your schedule, is to set the RFA application with your vote on the 26th, and if I've got this recorded right, the RFA 1 application substantially complete, including operator and equity interest, is extended to December 1st, 2014. So that's reflected in John's document and on the chart that's in your books. December 1st is the date for the Region C Phase 1 application. And we didn't add a lot of detail in between because we hadn't really visited that. We wanted to make sure we had the dates on all the ends particularly described. The second part of that is the RFA 2 date or submittal was set at 3/27/15, and then a projected award date in August of 2015 for Region C.
And the December 1st date included, of course, all new applicants, as we discussed last
Correct.
at that time, right?
And thanks for that clarification. I think it's
Yep.
important for everyone to understand. I wasn't there, but I thought there was also, because the motion particularly had including operator and equity interest, there's a message there to have a complete application by December 1st. Correct. For RFA 1.
Yes, and I think we defined, I think we attempted to define what a complete application was, and that was both the operator and the money, and the funding, at least the funding sources.
At least the equity interest, I think that's key. It is, even our applicants in the other regions,
Right.
well into their evaluation process, they only had
Right.
letters of intent from financing sources to complete all the financing. But it's important to understand the equity financing. That's the important piece,
Right.
not the overall or total financing.
But yeah. And so we need to have that defined as to what a complete application is, so that we,
Or substantially complete.
or a substantially complete application, so that
Please pardon the interruption. Your conference contains less than 3 participants at this time. If you would like to continue, press *1 now, or the conference will be terminated.
Steve, are you still there?
It was terminated.
I
Steve?
got *1, I think we're all right.
No, Steve, did you miss anything?
Probably, but it was only 30 seconds.
Okay, we had a brief discussion about the equity, what a complete application is for December 1 in Region C. And we were talking about the need for that application to include the operator as well as where the equity interest, who had the equity interest and what it was.
That's right.
Right.
That those elements were essential ingredients of a substantially complete application, and if we didn't have both of those, we wouldn't take it.
Right.
And I believe as well, we are looking at whether we need to make some adjustments to the regulations to clarify what that
Right.
substantially complete
Right.
is.
Right. Okay. Any further questions or
I
thoughts?
may just clarify that, we have not made a determination relative to the amount of equity, debt-to-equity ratio on any
Right.
of these applications.
Right.
So none of these should be construed as certain minimum or, relative to a ratio.
No, we just want to know what percentage of the 500 million is going to be equity and where it's coming from, right?
Right,
And that's in order to have the proper amount of time to investigate.
right.
Right. Okay, the only question I had, and it's a very minor question, and maybe we haven't gotten that far, is why there's about 4 weeks between the end of arbitration and the commencement and the closing of the host community hearing. Maybe we haven't gotten that far yet.
We haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
John's,
All right.
basically, we had the 3 dates or the 2 dates.
Right.
And then everything else is to be
Okay.
determined.
Okay, fine.
So we want to just start from that
All right.
and develop it from here.
Great. All right.
I mean, really, everything beyond March 15th is kind of speculative, right? I mean, who knows what the schedule is going to be, because we don't have any idea how many applications we'll have and so on and so forth. So
Right.
we don't know if we'll have appeals, we don't know if we'll have arbitrations, but
Right.
the one that really matters is when the RFA2s are due.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, any further comment on Region C then? Do you have the guidance that you need, Director Day? or
Yes,
the
I do.
Affirmation that you need?
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Okay,
and that's the last item for me.
okay, good, thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go to item 5. I think, yeah, let's go to item 5, and General Counsel Blue.
I think we can move pretty quickly through item 5. The first item in your packet is titled an emergency regulation. This was a draft that we put together to include some of the conversations we had about the definition of capital investment and what could and couldn't be included. I am reminded in looking at this that when we drafted this change, we did not include the Commission's prior discussion about infrastructure. We had a prior discussion about including infrastructure costs, I believe, off the property.
Outside.
So we would need to reflect that in here as well. And I'm also reminded when I looked at this that we put in some other investment costs that the Commission may not have determined should be included. So the gist of this regulation is that we would do it very simply and surgically and move out of what's not included into the included category for Region C only. And if the Commission is comfortable with that format, we can make those changes, submit it again to the Commission as an emergency regulation, and then move it through the process.
Comments on that?
Is there any reason to make a point of it being Region C only?
Well, I believe the Commission's discussions limited it to Region C at this point in time. It was not a Region A or B matter.
Yeah, it's totally moot, I think, with respect to A or B. I just wasn't sure if we really wanted to specifically exempt them. I guess it doesn't make any difference.
No, oh, I think it does make a difference, Mr. Chairman. We haven't gotten the investments yet. I mean, nobody's put any money down. And I think we need to be very clear about that.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Fine.
Not nobody's put, but the.
Nobody has reached the 500 million
Right,
minimum.
right. Nobody's reached the 500, right.
Let's just put it that way.
Right, okay.
So we will make those changes, we will submit this to you at our next meeting, and then we'll put it out for informal comment and kind of go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
And the interest will track the language of the resolution that we voted on.
Yes, that's
Right.
correct. That's
Okay.
right.
All right?
The next
That's A,
item
right?
is a delegation of authority. We talked one of our recent meetings about having the availability of a hearing officer when our current racing hearing officer is unavailable or conflicted. And after that discussion and reviewing it further, we thought it would be best to have someone outside the legal department. So you have in your package a bio of Art Krieger from the firm of Anderson and Krieger. He does no work for us at the moment on gaming or racing matters, and if he is approved to be a hearing officer, he will not do anything else for us other than be a hearing officer as needed. He does have experience in master-type matters and hearing-type matters, and he is comfortable in taking on this duty if we would designate him as such.
Okay, discussion?
I had a couple thoughts. We're being very persnickety here about sort of adhering to all the best practice and appearance of conflicts and so forth. But if we're going to all this distance to find people who are completely objective, I wonder whether one of our major consultants partners is really objective. That was one. I don't doubt that he would be, but we're going through this to make sure that there's not even any appearance of potential conflict. So that was one, and then the second was, I wonder if couldn't we find anybody that had any kind of experience or background in the race business? It was kind of notable that he didn't have any in that, but those are two different points.
Well, I think those are fair points. I think to the first point, we certainly could get someone that is with a firm that doesn't do any work for us now. We would need to do a procurement to do that. It also is, given the extent of gaming and the legal firms in town, it's hard to find someone who's not conflicted on another basis. But we could certainly do that. We could go through a procurement and find someone who has no relation to us whatsoever. In terms of racing experience, that might be a little bit more difficult. I don't know that we have a very deep bench of racing experience. We consider ourselves lucky to have David Murray, who comes from the former Racing Commission. So we could do a search for someone like that, but I think that would be a little harder than finding someone who could just act in general as a hearing officer.
Right. Well, I throw those two thoughts out for the other commissioners to think about. I don't feel terribly strongly about them.
I don't see an issue. I think the likelihood that Mr. Krieger will serve as a hearing officer multiple times is small. Because it is really only when Mr. Murray is conflicted himself, which again is
right.
we have a real case, I guess, in front of us, but this is not something that has happened in the months that he's acted as a hearing officer. So I'm not too concerned about the notion that Mr. Krieger is a partner for a law firm that has worked for us.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree that it will be rare, because it really isn't if Mr. Murray is unavailable, because certainly a hearing could be put off till the next month if need be. If there were, an availability issue, it really would be a conflict, and I see those. He's been out of that for several years now, so his previous role as general counsel, so I think that would be rare also, and I'm comfortable with Mr. Krieger.
Mr. Stebbins, any thoughts?
No, I shared the chairman's concern about lack of racing experience, but again, I think it's such an infrequent basis that I'm comfortable with Mr. Krieger as well.
Commissioner McHugh, it was you who raised the sensitivity about our own general counsel and her staff doing it. Are you okay with Krieger?
I am, and I've raised it because I was concerned about having somebody in a position of authority over one of the people presenting one side or the other, judging the case that their subordinate presented. That was the heart of it, and this doesn't go there. And frankly, it seems to me fresh eyes, i.e. somebody who doesn't know a lot about racing but is a very good lawyer, might be helpful in some cases. So I'm perfectly comfortable with Mr. Krieger. He's got a fine reputation and a distinguished background.
Okay. That was me.
So do you need a vote there, General Counsel Blue, or is...
We could use a vote, yes.
Okay. So the vote would be to authorize Mr. Krieger to act as a hearing examiner in those cases where he is designated as such by you.
That's correct.
Okay.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Zuniga?
Aye.
Commissioner Cameron?
Aye.
Commissioner McHugh, aye.
Aye.
Chairman Crosby?
Aye.
All right. And the ayes have it unanimously, and Mr. Krieger is appointed in that capacity. All right. Next, Ms. Blue, monitoring and pre-opening and qualifier regulations.
So in your packet, you have what will be the ready-to-file version with the Secretary of the Commonwealth of the monitoring and pre-opening regulations. We have qualifier here, but those are not quite ready to come before you. They will come to you on the 24th. You have the amended small business impact statement. We had our hearing on the monitoring and pre-opening regs. We incorporated comments where they were appropriate. There are no changes in the version that you have here based upon the version you last saw. So we're asking for your approval to file these as the final regulations with the Secretary of the Commonwealth, along with the amended small business impact statement.
So these are the same regs that we sent out for public comment.
Yes,
And we had comments, and they did not result in any changes.
that's correct.
That's the story. All right. Comments, thoughts, questions?
Looked fine to me.
I just had one question, and I didn't think about this earlier, and that is the definitions include terms that never show up in the regulations. We define minority business enterprise, we define small business, and we never...
They don't show up as often as they could. We do sort of contract them and call them VBEs and MBEs and lump them all together, but we thought it important to define them someplace, and this was the regulation to define them in, but I agree with you, they don't necessarily always show up in this regulation.
They don't show up at all. I didn't find the word small business in the substance of the regulation.
Oh, small business does not, no. No, that's correct. We defined that in there, I think, to help us with some of our affirmative action plans where we ask the question, but it does not show up in the regulation. That's true.
So in a future regulation, we will refer back to this. Here's what triggered my question, and it's not earth-shaking. We can amend this at any time. But we file a small business impact statement that says that the regulations apply solely to recipients of a gaming license and the gaming vendors they contract with to construct the gaming establishment. No small businesses are subject to these regulations. That's what we say in the small business impact statement. And then the first page of the regulation defines small business, so that the small business impact people who are concerned about this are likely to be confused. Maybe.
I agree with that. I think that the definition of small business as part of the small business impact statement, that probably is defined in other regulations, not from our agency. But I do understand where there is sort of the potential for confusion between the small business impact statement and the small business definition we have in our regulations.
Okay. I'm prepared to approve this. This needs to be done. It needs to be put in place. I would welcome, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up earlier. I should have. I just didn't read it carefully. I would welcome further attention to this, and whether we need to have these definitions in this regulation or whether they really belong someplace else. And if so, we can fix that down the road. Well, it's not catastrophic. But putting a definition in a regulation that never refers to the definition is sometimes leads people to scratch their heads.
And the definitions are consistent with our licensing paperwork.
Yes.
And we also adopted a different definition of small business, which somewhere we ought to reflect. But
Okay.
I agree with the judge, if it's not in here, can always take it out, I guess.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. A vote is necessary to get these moved on to the next step. I entertain a motion.
So I move that we approved 205 CMR 135.00, monitoring and project construction and licensee requirements, along with the amended small business impact statement.
Second?
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Zuniga?
Aye.
Commissioner Cameron?
Aye.
Commissioner McHugh, aye. Chairman Crosby?
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. All right, Council Blue, thank you very much,
Thank you.
both for your substance and your prognostication. The last item is Region A, the master licensing schedule. And
I will, if you're going to go to item number 6, I will drop off at this point.
yes, all right. Chairman Crosby, speedy recovery, and
Thank you.
we will see you soon.
All right,
Chairman,
see you next week. Thanks.
all right.
Thank you.
Chairman Crosby is leaving the meeting. Okay, Director Day, or General Counsel Blue, or both.
Commissioner McHugh and Commissioners, what we have done with the schedule was updated in the table format for Region A previously, and we are just coming back today to really confirm what those updates were and also reflect them, making them consistent on our charts that we also use to display the schedule we have for each licensing effort. So if you look in your packet, you will see both the table for Region A and also a new chart for Region A, which has really been updated. And what we've actually accomplished, if you look at the chart itself, you will see that we have established, first of all, in the end, 9/12 as the projected award date. And that, of course, is based on the arbitration periods and not any further use of the flexible 14 beyond what has been used at this point. We have also reflected the closing hearings and estimated those on August 12th, August 11th, and August 12th, and that would allow us 30 days to be able to issue to make the award, the designation decision on September 12th.
So there are two schedules, two of those narrative, there are three documents here. I say this particularly for those who may be watching remotely or hereafter. One is the traditional schedule that we've had, sort of like the schedule that was described for the all the surrounding community agreements and other things have been resolved and they're done. And then we're left with the last schedule, which is the Region A schedule, applicable solely to the relationship between the applicants and Boston. And that's the one that contains the operative dates for everything now in Region A.
That's correct.
Have I got that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And we discussed the, at our last meeting, the extraordinary foundation, I guess it's best to put it, that's necessary for use of any of the Flex 14 days at this point, since we reset the date for starting the arbitration.
That's right.
So, okay. What from us do you need today?
Only that you would concur, as you basically went through, that we have got the dates properly reflected as to what the commission's intentions are, and we're ready to post and move forward.
Great, great. Okay, discussion? Really, the discussion is for that last document. Any discussion?
No, I think
No.
it accurately reflects what we had discussed, and both documents look good.
I agree with that, and we have blended now our internal timetables, not reflected on here, but because they're for staff work and commission work. We've arranged our internal timetables to support these dates. These dates are not substantially changed from the dates we've been talking about for some time now, but they are the dates that we intend to adhere to unless there is some extraordinary reason not to do it. We're going to try very, very hard to get these. Of course, we've seen in the past that unforeseen challenges came up that modified dates. We're not going to stick to these irrationally, I guess is the best way to put it, but we are going to stick to these dates. Unless something extraordinary comes up. I guess that's the best way to say it. All right.
Correct.
Then,
And that would make the week of August, or September 8th through 12th, the tentative evaluation period.
right. The idea would be we'd start on the 8th, Monday the 8th, with the evaluation. The evaluation will be the traditional evaluation that we followed with respect to the slots parlor and with respect to Region B, involving presentations by the commissioners, and then discussion and deliberation, ultimately a decision on the license. All right? Okay, that's
last
great.
item we have.
So that's a good schedule, it's clear, it's set out in a way that everybody can understand, and thanks very much for that. Okay, is there any other business that we need to take up? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it unanimously, and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.